So that is one clip of many that we're going to share of Donald Trump's 60 Minutes interview. The first one that he had with 60 Minutes in 5 years. He has avoided them like the plague. But after successfully bullying their parent company into a settlement over the 60 Minutes interview that they had with Vice President Kamala Harris, total bullshit lawsuit, by the way, but they capitulated to Trump. Trump sat down with them, and unfortunately, this was a bit of a softball interview compared to other 60 Minutes interviews I've seen. They still go over contentious topics. There are some fact checks, and Trump is extraordinarily dishonest, visibly confused at times, and it was still a total disaster, and we have to talk about it. But before we do, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, so that first clip you saw was about the government shutdown. That was the first set of topics that a visibly uncomfortable Norah O'Donnell there had with Donald Trump in their wide-ranging interview. So let's continue on that thread. Because when Trump was president before, he demanded that, Democrats roll over on certain things in order to keep the government open. Then he said, I'll shut the government down. You know what, Chuck? I'll shut the government down. He presided over the longest government shutdown in American history in his first term. And this one is on pace, if it continues, to surpass even that one. And he mentions, they've lost their way. The Democrats lost their way. What he's actually accidentally telling on himself on live TV here, because he's pointing out the fact that President Biden never presided over a government shutdown when Democrats were in power or when Republicans had control of the House of Representatives. Biden, through objectively superior legislative management and skill, was able to avoid a government shutdown. Trump's not. The difference is Biden was willing to negotiate with Republicans, no matter how frustrating it was. So, again, Norah O'Donnell there, laying out the stakes and the fact that, disproportionately it's going to hurt Trump voters and red states much more than blue states and Democrats. By the way, this isn't like sloppy edit work from what I can tell. Like, he, especially during the first half of the conversation and the interview, he repeatedly interrupts her. Like, he's very nervous, very uncomfortable. And so even when she's asking, again, relatively speaking, this is kind of a softball interview, right? Certainly not like compared to Fox or anything, but compared to like typical 60 Minutes fare. And he's so uncomfortable, he feels like he has to constantly interrupt and filibuster and just repeat himself over and over again. Of course, he's referring to when the late Senator John McCain voted against Trump's attempt to repeal Obamacare again. And ever since then, I mean, it's just been one spectacular failure. He had that iconic line, that terrible line in the debate with Vice President Kamala Harris, where he's like, well, I don't have a plan, but I've got concepts of a plan. It's like, bro, after 10 years, that's not good enough. That's insufficient. And that's why people don't trust Trump or the Republicans with respect to healthcare, because they know he's full of shit. And of course, he also tried to get Obamacare repealed through judicial fiat by having the Supreme Court strike it down during the middle of COVID at a time when hundreds of thousands of Americans were dying, which would have put them even in greater danger. That's how much he hates Obama. He's so desperate to destroy Obamacare. But again, Democrats have no reason to trust Trump. This idea that, turn the government on, give us the votes now, and we pinky promise we'll work in good faith with you to do something good for the American people afterwards. There's no reason to take Trump at face value. But let's continue. It's called, shit, what is it called? Oh my God, what is it called? You can see in real time, he's like, I was teeing myself up there for something really clever and did not pull it off. Again, as we've discussed, what Trump wants to do, and Trump called for this in his first term, and Mitch McConnell said no, because Mitch McConnell's like, dude, I only care about tax cuts and getting judges through, and I circumvent the filibuster for both the reconciliation project or process for tax cuts, and the Republicans under Trump already modified the filibuster such that they could get their Supreme Court nominees through with a simple majority. So McConnell's like, there's no need to get rid of the filibuster, because other than that, we don't have an affirmative agenda. Trump wants them to get rid of it now in order to get this continuing resolution or government budget passed. And again, so far, Republican leaders are holding the line, as Norah O'Donnell points out.
Oh, I lied.
John Thune being Mitch McConnell's replacement as the Republican leader in the Senate. So John Thune is currently saying no. And well, dang it, I didn't realize you could just say no to me, man. Like, come on, you can say no to me? We'll see if the pressure campaign continues, because Trump has continued to pop off even in the past 24 hours about this. He's becoming increasingly pissed and desperate. Then the topic and the subject.
Very quickly.
So, no, she's actually right and he's wrong. Inflation was on its way down under President Biden. It's ticking back up under Donald Trump. And that includes grocery prices, gas prices, energy prices. They are skyrocketing on Trump in large part because of the tariffs. And to the extent that he wants to put emphasis on the stock market, it is true that the stock market is doing pretty well under Trump. It also did well under Biden. It did well under Trump term 1. It did well under Obama. The stock market overall in this country, for the most part, yes, there are peaks and valleys, but the overall trajectory tends to be upward. And I will note that when President Biden was in office, he broke all-time records, all-time highs, and he didn't have to engage in this expansive tariff war with the rest of the country. So if we're going to put it's really the stock market, that's the real bellwether, then objectively, Biden was the superior manager of the economy because he was able to get all-time highs on the stock market without the tariff wars. So again, Trump is just kind of stupid here. But let's continue. It is possible even though the letter and the spirit of the Constitution sits squarely against Trump on this, again, it's entirely possible that the court will turn in his favor. It's possible because they fear Trump and they're ideologically inclined to support Trump. But the text and the spirit of the law cut squarely against him. I mean, he has suffered unanimous defeat in this respect at the lower and appellate levels. Now it's up to the Supreme Court to actually faithfully interpret the Constitution or to do Donald Trump's bidding, and that's when it gets really dicey. There are other clips we could show, but I would just want to show one more, and we'll probably talk about the others in separate videos. Otherwise, this thing would go on for like 30 minutes. But the topic changes again to the draconian, cruel policies of ICE and Border Patrol with respect to Trump's immigration and mass deportation policies. And he has a really shocking answer to a perfectly reasonable question. So when Trump says, hey, listen, these masked officers who don't identify themselves, who very often rough people up, including American citizens or documented legal immigrants who often detain or arrest or disappear lawful immigrants, legal immigrants, also sometimes American citizens, all of that. No, I don't think they've gone far enough. I think they need to go further still. Tear gas, busted windows, children, mothers being thrown to the ground, children being zip-tied, all of that shit, Trump says, actually, they need to do more. So this idea that Donald Trump is a moderate with respect to immigration policy is just bullshit. He and Stephen Miller seem to be of like mind on this, or if they're not, Stephen Miller is able to bully Donald Trump behind the scenes into getting on with a much more hawkish immigration approach. Either way, though, this was a terrible interview for Donald Trump. Again, not that it was the most softball interview I've ever seen, but by 60-minute standards, if you watch the whole thing, and we may discuss it in videos tomorrow, you can tell that lawsuit has impacted their approach, I think, in my opinion, to how they handle Trump. So again, not the worst performance by Norah O'Donnell there. She does push back a bit, but it's like, this is insane. It's really, really bad. Again, Trump at times confused, incredibly dishonest, but certainly not making a persuasive case, which is one of the reasons why the polls against him have been so atrocious. But we'll see what happens. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.